In a distant northern continent, Yennefer's lifelong love continued to hunt monsters relentlessly. A Kikimora leaped out of the water, and the man wielded his long sword. Engaging in battle with the Kikimora, he agilely dodged the attacks and severed several of the Kikimora's claws. With a final thrust, he pierced the Kikimora's throat, ending the creature's life. The man's name was Jerott, a witcher. Legend has it that witchers are genetically modified individuals with enhanced physical abilities and strength, making a living by hunting monsters in exchange for bounties. However, witchers are not accepted by humans and are seen as dirty outcasts from hell. But Jerott had long grown accustomed to the peculiar looks from others. On this day, he arrived at a tavern and inquired about the whereabouts of the alderman. As he needed to collect his reward for the Kikimora, the proprietor made it clear that the tavern did not welcome him and insisted he leave. A few thugs nearby began insulting Jerott, provoking him recklessly. Jerott wouldn't back down. If they wanted a fight, he would oblige. So, the group moved outside the tavern to prepare for a confrontation, but Jerott effortlessly evaded the crossbow bolts that came his way. The battle began in earnest. And within a minute, Jerott dispatched all of them. Yet, despite his victory, he gained nothing from the fight. Instead, the world accused him of being heartless and cruel, and Jerott faced the scorn and insults from everyone. Jerott had no choice but to leave the town and embark on his monster hunting path once again. On that day, while in a tavern, he overheard that werewolves were causing havoc throughout the kingdom of Temeria. Recently, another witcher had accepted a commission from local miners to eliminate a werewolf for a sum of 3,000 gold coins, but ended up taking the money and fleeing. In an attempt to restore the reputation of witchers, Jerott found the miners and discovered their plans for a rebellion to overthrow the king, who allowed the werewolf to wreak havoc unchecked. To appease the people, Jerott offered to eliminate the werewolf for them at the price of 1,000 gold coins. And so, with just a few words, Jerott helped pacify the turmoil in Temeria. However, Royal Sorcerer Ostrich made it clear that Jerott was not welcome and promptly arranged for him to be escorted out of the city. Unexpectedly, on their way out, the escorting soldiers fell victim to a magical attack, collapsing to the ground. Soon after, the sorceress Triss appeared before Jerott. Triss informed Jerott that 6 years ago, a coachman mysteriously disappeared on a hilltop castle, and since then, people had been vanishing all over Temeria. The royal guard speculated that the monster crawled out of the tomb of Princess Ada, the king's sister, and there were rumors that Ada was pregnant before her death. Jerott believed that it was highly possible that after Ada's death, the fetus in her womb mutated, leading to its transformation into a werewolf. However, when Jerott saw the bodies of slain witchers, their hearts and livers brutally ripped out, he quickly dismissed his own speculation. It became apparent that the sorceress Triss had fabricated the story of the witcher fleeing to conceal the fact that the witcher had been killed by the monster. In order to avoid panic, observing the empty abdominal cavities of the bodies, Jerott realized that only one creature could be so selective, a striga, and the only cause for the formation of a striga was a curse. Clearly, Princess Ada did not die in childbirth but was the victim of a cursed murder, resulting in her unborn princess turning into a striga. The next day, Triss brought Jerott to meet the king, pleading with him to order the extermination of the monster in the castle, but the king remained calm, focused on eating his meat, showing no urgency to avenge his deceased sister. At that moment, Jerott noticed a change in the king's expression only when the monster was mentioned. Could there be a connection between the king and the monster? Jerott voiced his suspicion, and the king became thoroughly enraged, ordering Jerott to be driven out. However, Jerott did not give up. In order to uncover the truth, he and Triss quietly sneaked into Ada's old castle, which was in a dilapidated and eerie state. Soon after, Triss found several letters in a drawer, unraveling the mystery of the monster's origin. It turned out that the king had an affair with his own sister, Ada, resulting in her pregnancy. When Queen Sancha, the king's mother, learned of this, she persuaded Ada to terminate the pregnancy, but Ada vehemently refused, leading to Queen Sancha's sorrowful demise. Triss pointed out that Sancha was not capable of magic, so someone else must have cursed Ada. At that moment, Jerott caught a whiff of dark magic in Ada's bed, and he realized that only the royal sorcerer, Ostrich, could wield such magic. Jerott tracked down Ostrich, and under his intense questioning, Ostrich finally revealed the truth. It turned out that Ostrich had been secretly in love with Princess Ada. When he discovered Ada's affair with the king, he felt betrayed. In a fit of rage, cast a curse on Princess Ada. After her death, the unborn child in her womb transformed into the Striga. Jerott pressed Ostrud on how to lift the curse, and Ostrud explained that he had to fight the Striga until dawn, and only then would the princess return to her human form. So Jerott bound Ostrud in front of Ada's bed and lured up the hidden Striga from the darkness. Just as Ostrud tried to break free from the ropes, a voice suddenly came from behind. In this way, Ostrud received the punishment he deserved. The Striga had undeveloped wings on her back, her body covered in rot, a long umbilical cord dragging on the ground, and emitting terrifying cries. She had grown inside Ada's rigid womb for over a decade, living as a mutated Striga. To avoid harming the Striga, Jerott could only try to delay her until sunrise. He quickly flung a silver chain, binding the Striga momentarily, but she soon broke free and lunged at Jerott. They fought fiercely, with the Striga repeatedly pouncing on Jerott, only to be pushed back each time. When the Striga leaped again, Jerott put on his silver knuckles and delivered a powerful punch. By that time, dawn had arrived, and the Striga had to retreat into her coffin to hide from the sunlight. Jerott quickly stood up and sealed the coffin shut, preventing the Striga from escaping. Finally, with the sunlight shining upon her, the Striga's curse was lifted, and she transformed back into a human, lying naked in the bloodstains, her decaying flesh gone. Exhausted from the night-long battle, Jerott eventually collapsed due to fatigue. Shortly after, Jerott recovered and was invited to the Sintra Palace. At the engagement banquet, Lord Urchin's helmet was knocked off, leaving everyone astonished the next moment. It turned out that Urchin had a hedgehog-like face, exceptionally ugly in appearance. The queen, upon seeing Urchin's grotesque visage, became furious and ordered Jerott to kill him. As a witcher, Jerott could see that Urchin was not a monster but had been cursed. Under the queen's command, soldiers drew their weapons and attacked Urchin, but they were quickly defeated by him. The knight explained to the queen that he had no ill intentions and that he came to propose to the princess because of the law of surprise. The law of surprise is a customary law that is sacred and cannot be violated. When a savior invokes the law of surprise as a reward, whatever the saved person's first unexpected gain is, it must belong to the savior. It can be a person, a thing, or anything else, and the effect of the law of surprise is not only magical but also irreversible once it is invoked. When King Roner was saved by Urchin, the king promised him the law of surprise, and the first thing that happened when he returned home was the birth of the princess. According to the law, the princess was supposed to belong to Urchin. More and more soldiers rushed in, and Urchin was eventually knocked down by the crowd. Just as the soldier's axe was about to fall, Jerott intervened just in time. Since the law of surprise cannot be reversed once it is invoked, not even the queen can defy it. So Iced and some righteous knights joined the fight. They defended the law of surprise together with the Witcher. Seeing the banquet turning into such chaos, the queen finally stepped in to stop the fight. Princess Pavetta rushed to embrace Urchin, revealing that they were already deeply in love. As Jerott said, Urchin had been cursed and transformed into his current appearance since childhood, leading a miserable life. It was only after he saved the king's life and chose the law of surprise as his reward that his fate began to improve. But Queen Calanthe still refused to accept it, believing it was a deception. Iced persuaded Queen Calanthe, stating that the law of surprise was a centuries-old tradition, and if even a powerful nation like theirs didn't abide by it, the world would fall apart. However, Queen Calanthe, unwilling to submit to fate, drew a dagger and stabbed the knight. Pavetta, witnessing this, let out a sorrowful cry and suddenly awakened her latent power. The tremendous energy in her voice sent everyone flying away. Pavetta and Urchin held each other's hands in the center of the energy storm, slowly rising. To prevent Pavetta's power from causing further harm, Jerott exerted all his strength to stop the storm. Calanthe finally understood that fate could not be defied, and the two individuals who were already bound by destiny should not be forcibly separated. She sincerely blessed her daughter's love for the knight. With the blessing, Urchin's curse was lifted, and he finally regained his handsome appearance. As Jerott prepared to leave, Urchin insisted on thanking him. Jerott couldn't escape, so he had to choose the law of surprise as his reward. Unexpectedly, Pavetta was already pregnant, and fate linked Jerott to the child in Pavetta's womb. Realizing that he had been on the edge of life and death for a long time, Jerott decided to take a risk and seek out the lamp god. Jerott fished a strange bottle from the bottom of the lake. It is said that as long as you open the bottle cap to help the lamp god regain his freedom, he can make 3 wishes to the lamp god. But as Jerott fished out the bottle, his friend Jaskier snatched it away. At that moment, a strong wind suddenly blew across the lake. Seeing this, Jaskier hastily made a wish. Before he could state his third wish, Jerott stopped him, as there were only 3 chances to make a wish to the wishmaker. In the midst of their argument, Jaskier accidentally shattered the bottle. Jerott bent down to pick up the fragments but cut his wrist, leaving a mark. Suddenly, Jaskier's face turned red, he began coughing up blood, and struggled to breathe. Jerott quickly used magic to banish the wishmaker and took Jaskier to a nearby camp for help, only to find that there was only one elven healer there. The healer explained that Jaskier had been attacked by magic. His medicine could only temporarily relieve the pain and halt the spread of the curse. For a complete cure, he would have to seek the help of a kingdom sorcerer in the nearest city.